that I can do this now is by going live to make a video. But what you're about to see comes from the author, Gabriel Kennedy, aka Anon, from his new book, Chapel Perilous, The Life and Thought Crimes of Robert Anton Wilson.
Let's talk about Bob's philosophy. I know that you have,
and it's on the New Thinking Aloud with Jeffrey Mishlove YouTube channel. This guy interviews legends.
Had a band called Hail Eris, and Bob wrote frequently about the Discordian religion, and it seemed to be a big part of his thinking about things. Let's explain that for our viewers.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Discordianism is, what is it? A religion disguised as a joke, or a joke disguised as a religion. It was founded in, I guess, around 1959 by Bob's two friends, Kerry Thornley and Greg Hill, in a bowling alley in Whittier, California, when Hill and Thornley were bowling and discussing the chaos of the world. They both had a vision. She appeared from the ceiling lights, a la Big Lebowski in a way, and it was the goddess of chaos, Eris, and she was there with a message to these two Discordian prophets that there was going to be even more chaos coming, and so get used to it. Bob discovered Discordianism. He received the message from Kerry Thornley and Hill when around 1967, I believe, when Wilson was working at Playboy magazine, as I said previously, as an associate editor. And one of his jobs was to, go through the letters that the magazine received from different, I guess, readers. And he received a letter from an editor of a libertarian magazine called The Innovator, and that editor's name was Kerry Thornley. And they were discussing, alternatives to the U.S. postal system. And Wilson and Thornley began, very heavy correspondence after that. And very soon after, Thornley turned Wilson on to Discordianism, and Wilson picked it up immediately. Discordianism, if I could put it as briefly as possible, is sort of based around the principle that where chaos is what really exists. We're surrounded by it. It is us, right? And anytime we seek to impose any type of structure to make sense of it, we're imposing an order that is completely arbitrary and can be wiped away in a heartbeat. So don't get stuck on any, order that we try to make sense of the world. Of course, there was the law of fives, which, described the 5 stages of I guess, human evolution. And the main principle of that is the fact that, things cycle over constantly. There's some revolution of some sort, a new order gets imposed, and everyone turns to each other and says, we're going to do it right this time. And then lo and behold, nature takes hold, and somewhere down the line, another revolution is needed, of which the chess pieces are reset, and everyone looks at each other and says, we're going to do it right this time. And thus the story continues. It's somewhat of a Taoist and Buddhist philosophy that comes mostly from Greg Hill. Greg Hill, I got a great opportunity to look at a number of correspondences that Wilson held over the years with his friends and colleagues. And I got to read a number of letters that Wilson and Greg Hill shared. And Greg Hill remains a Discordian through the end in his sort of Buddhist repose and acceptance of everything, even death, because at one period Wilson was very enthusiastic about the notion of life extension and even immortality. And Greg Hill and Wilson sort of got known for that, you know, and one could kind of build an ego around that, if you will, and find some sort of self-importance, and no one dare contradict me and my great description of the world. Greg Hill was just his buddy, and that's not how Bob thought at all. But that's, some might fall down that trap. But Greg Hill just gave him a little poke in a letter and just asked him one time, he's like, Bob, do you really want to live forever? Simply like that, right? And so, you know, and really they were, you know, Wilson, Greg Hill, Kerry Thornley, and then Wilson brought his friend Robert Shea into the mix and initiated him, if you will, into Discordianism soon after Wilson and Thornley met. So, and that, of course, the notion of Discordianism became the major philosophical theme of Illuminatus trilogy, the book that both Wilson and Shea co-wrote, as I discussed earlier. So, yeah, and then now it's taken off independently of Wilson's contributions to the religion, though I think Wilson is a major contributor and prophet and pope of Discordianism. But it's great. It has its own, it has legs, and it has like the multiple legs of a centipede that's growing and sprouting everywhere all over the world. So
I think we need to enlighten our viewers a little bit as to the origin myth of the Discordian religion. As I recall, it goes back to Homer.
Yes, well, yes, Homer first, I guess he first wrote about it or spoke about it or sung about it way back in the day, shall we say, where the story of the golden apple, right? Because Eris is the daughter of Nyx, which is the goddess of night, I believe, and Eris has a sister as well, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment. But when it came to the golden apple, which was the major symbol, I guess, of the Discordians, that was when there was a party up on Mount Olympus, and I believe someone wasn't invited.
Eris was not invited. The name of your band, as I recall.
Eris was not invited to the shindig, and you know, how could you not invite Eris? You know, she's like, you know, the life of the party, if you will. And so she rolled up while everyone was dancing and having a great time, and she rolled into the dance floor a golden apple, which was inscribed with the term Kalisti, which means to the fairest one, you know, or to the prettiest one. And so you're dealing with gods and goddesses here on Mount Olympus, who, you know, they felt very highly of themselves. So a brawl broke out, and there was a great battle on Mount Olympus, and I think it led to the Battle of Troy or whatnot.
Yeah, the Trojan War, the kidnapping of Helen.
Stop.
Right.
And you know, and perhaps the truest rendition of human history that exists, really, people's egos and wars that ensue after that, or the role that egos play in war.
Well, as I understand your book, Gabriel, you're basically suggesting that Bob Wilson came of age at an important time, right after the Second World War, after the unleashing of atomic power and the fear that produced around the world. I remember as a grade school child being taught how to hide under my desk if there was an atomic explosion. And it was, you know, the world was already suffering from enormous chaos. And I think you portray Wilson as a person who is helping the culture as a whole